Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair, and welcome to our guests. And at the very outset, I would endorse what my colleague Senator Gallagher said about the importance of getting the northern economy to benefit from every opportunity presented now. And indeed, in that context, it's welcome also that there's an increase in trade north-south, if I understood your presentation correctly, and in January, and hopefully that will continue. That's a very good news story. I want to turn to the issue indeed raised consistently, to be very fair about this, and very eloquently raised and very consistently raised by Senator Niall O'Donnell, and it's the issue around the mutual recognition of qualifications. And I know that Niall has asked a question there, and I missed a bit of the beginning of his question, so if I repeat some of it, please understand that. But if I understand from your presentation, 10 arrangements have already been made, and there's basically, give or take, about 100 more arrangements that would need to be put in place of mutual recognition of qualifications. And I think the point you make is that an overarching agreement is necessary between the two governments to agree broadly on mutual recognition, as if things were no different to what they were pre-Brexit. And I think that shouldn't be insurmountable and shouldn't be unachievable. And I suppose all I'd like to say through the chair is that it would be my view that as a committee we'd make this a keynote element of our report, and that we'd pursue this very, very strongly. And meanwhile, the individual professional areas can go on making mutual recognitions. But I do think if the overarching arrangement would work it, well, then there should be moves made. Could you maybe tell us if you know if any moves have already been made in this, and to what degree have they succeeded? And if not, why not? I would have thought it has to be a huge priority. And if Senator O'Donnell has already asked this, I apologise because I did have to miss a little of his question. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Aon, I'll go to you first this time.
I shall bow to the greater expertise of my colleague, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator, for your question. Yes, from my last conversations, just to answer your first question, from my last conversations with BEIS, the UK department, there are 10 arrangements in place at this moment in time. However, most regulators are talking to one another and trying to plug those gaps on a regulator-to-regulator basis. I guess what I am asking for and what we are calling for is some form of bilateral, as you mentioned, that's reciprocal, and then you have to, I guess, bring in the question of the TCA itself. So any bilateral that would be agreed would have to, I guess, flex and respond to whatever agreements are in place between the UK and the EU at the wider level, because that framework is in place there for regulator to regulator recognition between the UK and the EU. There are a number of areas, and I didn't include it in my initial comments, but there are a number of areas where there is a challenge, and a challenge that persists, where the recognition of a qualification is contingent upon a professional having residency in Ireland, for example. So the likes of transport managers, CPC qualification is dependent upon their residence in ROI. So as a result of that, there are some peculiar challenges along the way. So I guess to suggest that we would be able to get in place something that reflects in whole what we had pre end of transition is not something I would envisage, but we can get significantly along that road.